It seems like a no-brainer that natural light is a good thing. But when you really study why, you realize just how powerful it is. Hey everyone, I'm Angela, back for this edition of the Space Doctor series on the Architecting channel. I'm an architect, Feng Shui practitioner, and researcher who has made my whole career about studying design for well-being, something called salutogenesis. So welcome if you are new here. We use a card deck that I developed specifically to talk about this and incorporate all of this work that has two parts. The first part are foundational concepts, things that we know either generate well-being or dis-ease, as well as what my research into salutogenesis has shown are 5 core theories or aspects. I've associated each of these aspects with one of the elements from Feng Shui. And not only are there the aces of the suits that you can see in the illustration here that are the core concepts, there's a whole alphabet, if you will, of additional theories that my research indicates contribute to one of these 5 aspects. I shuffle each part of the deck and draw a card, and then the challenge is to talk about the 2 cards together, which is why every week is different. And I truly believe that the cards that come up really is the message that all of us need to have for the week. And don't worry if you are not a design professional, an architect like me, an interior designer, you don't have to be. My mission with doing this is to make it simple and easy to understand and to give you action steps so you can make a difference in your home, your place of work, or other spaces in your community right away. So let's go ahead and get started. The card I drew from the foundational aspects part of the deck is the resilience card. And this is one of my favorite cards. You see here the crack in the broken pavement that even though it looks like nothing could be there and it's desolate, there is growth coming through. And that really is what resilience is all about. It's our ability to withstand and endure, and more importantly, to bounce back after we encounter a setback, to actually thrive again, even though something may have been a little bit tough. And that crack that you see really is the breakthrough. It seems like it's the breakdown, but that is what leads to the breakthrough. Because without the crack, there would be no change. There would be no loosening up of the existing situation. And a lot of times in our lives, we're tolerating things that are not really for our highest and best good, but they work good enough. And it takes those cracks to force us to really see things for what they are and to make a change. So that is really what I want to explore today as we think about resiliency is the support we need to feel comfortable with life's challenges and see them as growth opportunities. Just like you can see the crack in the sidewalk here is the growth opportunity for the plant. It couldn't have grown if the concrete hadn't cracked and some soil had gotten into that crack. Really, a lot of what Feng Shui is about as well is looking at the environment that we're in and making sure that it is as supportive and harmonious for us as possible. Harmonious meaning that there's nothing stagnant or stuck or actively harming our energies. Supportive comes in the form of the way that we add meaning to the space that feels good to us, that feels positive to us, those environmental anchors that we put in our spaces, things that symbolize our goals, our wishes, our hopes, our dreams, things that represent past accomplishments and achievements that we want to build on, things that we just enjoy, that make us happy when we look at them or use them. Those are all the ways that Feng Shui is supportive. Supportive environments help to replenish our resources so that when something bad happens, it's easier for us to cope than it is if we have fewer resources. The card that I drew from the aspects part of the deck is natural light. And that's a pretty self-explanatory thing, right? We're not talking here about views. We're talking about the light itself. Now, natural light comes from the biophilia aspect. Biophilia is about I relate. As human beings, we are a part of the natural world. Therefore, we have evolved to operate in the natural world. And that is exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about biophilia. Biophilia is associated with the wood element in Feng Shui. And wood is all about growth, connectivity, networks, flexibility. So when we think about biophilia specifically, we want to think about our ability to find that harmonious and well-resourced state by leveraging the networks that we have, the connections that we have to bring things to us, in this case, specifically nature. Also in Feng Shui, sunlight symbolizes energy, prosperity, and vitality. And it is viewed as something that is powerful and essential to have a good space, a space that really does flow well and have good energy in it. Research shows us that it's not just having a view or access to light, but sunlight itself, even if it's not hitting our skin, has more benefit than just having a view out of a window. That's why things like skylights can work, or higher up clerestory windows where you can't really see a whole lot. You can maybe just see the sky, but sunlight can come in. It's why people feel more optimistic on sunny days than they do on overcast days. Sunlight is that powerful. But let's talk a little bit about the biological impact of sunlight. Our eyes and our skin contain photoreceptors. Those photoreceptors look at not only the intensity of the light, but what's called the color temperature. So we think of sunlight as sort of a fixed thing, but as we know, sunlight changes throughout the day. And in the sunrise and sunset hours, the color temperature of the light is more in the reddish spectrum. It's why the sky looks like it has shades of reds and pinks and purples and oranges. As we move closer to midday, we will see the light go from that reddish color to a more warm yellow color to a more blue color, actually. And that is the brightest time of day, the brightest daylight. Well, because we were evolved to be functioning in nature and spending quite a bit of our time outdoors, where of course we would be exposed to natural light. Our endocrine system is tied to our light exposure, like melatonin, which is an important hormone in making us feel sleepy. Melatonin levels rise in the evening as the light temperature changes, and that's what helps us get good quality sleep. Cortisol levels, which cortisol is a stress and energy hormone, peak during the active hours, and they also support our metabolism. Insulin and leptin, those are hormones that regulate glucose and support our appetite and have rhythmic oscillations. It's why we get hungry throughout the day. But when we are not getting exposure to natural light, those levels can get out of whack and can cause us to overeat or to eat when we're really not hungry. Heard of it? Ghrelin is a hunger stimulating hormone, and it also is impacted by our circadian cycle. So when we think about ghrelin and leptin together, it's easy to see why people who don't get much exposure to natural light may be at greater risk for obesity as well as diabetes. Even our thyroid stimulating hormone can change levels over a 24-hour day. And hormones like oxytocin are also regulated by the circadian cycle, which is tied to natural light. So natural light, kind of a big deal. It's important that you make an effort to get exposure to light throughout the day. Even if it's just in 10-minute increments, it's important. Natural light also impacts the production of vitamin D. Vitamin D is essential for healthy bones, a healthy immune system, and it can somewhat be tied to our mental health as well. So, all good reasons. I hope I have convinced you that you need to have exposure to natural light. So now let me put my architect's hat on and explain how we can do more with our spaces to encourage this. An obvious thing to do is windows, but windows alone are not enough. Windows that are too small or that don't allow sunlight to come into the building. So if the windows face north, you're less likely to get direct sunlight most of the year. So we know that the levels of light, even natural light indoors, are not the same. They're nowhere near as high as light levels outdoors. So we want to make it easier to spend more time outside. So in your home, think about how you can leverage things like your front porch or backyard. Can you put inviting seating out there? Can you put a fire pit or water feature, something to make it more pleasant to be outside? Even a shade structure is okay because the light levels are still going to be a lot higher than if you were inside the house. In Feng Shui, we also want to be sure that the windows we do have are kept unobstructed. What does that mean? Don't put a lot of stuff on the windowsill that clutters up the window and partially blocks it. Don't use heavy drapes and curtains that you keep drawn all the time. Don't use things like roller shades that black out the light and the view. Of course, there are times you're going to want to control the light coming in, but think about things like blinds that can filter the light or adjust the direction of the light without blocking the light, or things like sheer shades or sheer curtain panels that will diffuse the light but still allow it to come in. Make it a regular practice, though, even if you do choose to draw the curtains for privacy, that you don't keep them drawn. Open your house up, let natural light come in. You can also do things like put a faceted crystal on a windowsill that will pick up the light and cast rainbows around the space on a sunny day. So those are beautiful ways to play with that natural light, to welcome it in. Another feng shui trick is to use mirrors because, of course, mirrors are a reflective surface. So if sunlight can hit a mirror surface, it is going to bounce that sunlight deeper into the space, bring more light in. But you could also use other kinds of reflective surfaces like glass materials or high gloss paints or brighter colors that have a higher light reflectance value or LRV to help bring more light into the space. You do need to use artificial light because it's winter and it's dark, or maybe you live in a part of the world where you get prolonged periods of darkness. Definitely invest in color tuned lighting that will change its color temperature throughout the day. Think about how you can layer lighting. So instead of just having an overhead light or a single lamp, can you use a combination of overhead lights, task lights, some general lamps, maybe some decorative light that's just more fun, like, twinkling little lights that you can put out, anything like that. Think about putting your lights on timers so that you don't have to go through a lot of time and effort, or if they're part of a home electronic system, how can you automate or even do lighting presets that will get you the lighting ambiance that you want in that particular moment? That is really important for lighting and well-being. So I hope that this has helped you understand a little bit more about how we can build up our resources and how we can view resiliency as a strength that we need to maintain, just like we go to the gym to work out and make sure that we are physically strong. We need to work to keep our resiliency strong so that when something happens and we get those cracks, they truly are opportunities, not something that takes us out. And how we can really reinforce our resiliency physically and mentally by making sure we get exposure to natural light, because it increases our emotional resilience and our physical resilience, making us more productive, higher performing, less exhausted, and in general, having a higher quality of life. So thank you for tuning in. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel and tell a friend. Those are the best ways that you can support the work that I do and that I share with you every single week. Take care.